Okay, we're going to continue looking at the tabernacle. We've been through the tabernacle, the furnishings. We've been through the tent of meetings, and we left off with setting up the courtyard. So we'll be in Exodus chapter 27, starting in verse 9. And it says, "You shall also make the court of the tabernacle. For the south side there shall be hangings for the court made of fine woven linen, 100 cubits long for one side, and its 20 pillars, and their 20 sockets shall be of bronze. The hooks of the pillars and their bands shall be silver. Likewise, along the length of the north side there shall be hangings 100 cubits long, with its 20 pillars, and their 20 sockets of bronze, and the hooks of the pillars and their bands of silver. And along the width of the court on the west side shall be the hangings of 50 cubits, with their 10 pillars and their 10 sockets. The width of the court on the east side shall be 50 cubits. The hangings on one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets. And on the other side there shall be hangings of 15 cubits, with their 3 pillars and their 3 sockets." And we'll stop there.
What do they mean by sockets?
Okay, if you remember when they set up in the tent of the meetings, there was sockets of silver that the boards went into.
Oh,
So now you have pillars all around the outside. You don't have boards now, but you have pillars, but each one of them set into sockets made out of bronze that sit on the ground. So, you're thinking about something.
Yeah, is that to keep it from touching the earth, like we were talking about
Well,
before?
what we've got now is you've got the lowest grade of metal that actually touches the ground.
Right.
Now on the inside the tabernacle, the silver is on the ground,
Right.
but the gold nowhere touches the ground.
Okay.
Anywhere inside the tent of meetings, it's all overlaid in gold, all the wood and everything, and that doesn't touch the ground. It's not supposed to. But bronze is the connection to the earth,
Right.
to the sittings around the outside. Now this is fairly simple description here. This one you shouldn't have too much trouble understanding what it was talking about. You've got 20 pillars equally spaced on both of the long sides, 10 on the short side and back. The curtains just hang from it all the way along. It's linen, white linen probably. So, and that goes all the way around the outside. Then on the front, it only goes 15 cubits in on both sides because there's an opening to get in. There's a doorway. So it just doesn't cover completely. But there's only one entrance into the courtyard, and there's only one entrance, there's only one entrance into the tent of meetings inside the tabernacle itself. Now, the length of this, just so you know, it's 150 feet by 75 feet. So, much smaller than a football field. I showed you a comparison last week. A lot smaller than a football field. You can put 2 of these on a football field very easily. So the tent inside is actually taking up about 7% of the area inside.
How much percent?
7%. The rest of it's just all wide open space in there, for everything else that's going to take place, and we'll talk about what that is. Now the purpose of having this fence around the tabernacle itself, what do you think it is? Why do you think God said you got to put a fence around the tabernacle?
To protect what's on the inside, the
Protect it from what? I mean,
animals.
thieves.
Well, there's a process too when you go in. You can't just approach the holy.
Well, it becomes a barrier to prevent unlawful approaching.
Okay.
Because if you do it wrong, when you approach God at that point, you drop dead. So you kind of got to do it right.
Yeah.
And if you narrow, everybody has to enter through the same gateways. You can keep an eye on who's coming in, who's going out, making sure it's done right, which is the priest's job. It is protection to keep out wild animals. What happens when you start cooking all kinds of meat on the altar? You're going to attract some wildlife in a hurry. So it keeps that under control. It also becomes a positive line of, as you would say, demarcation between the world and the holy presence of God. Outside there is the world's. Inside there is God's. So it, which means he asked for very little space here on earth. And I thought it's always amazed me, especially when you look at the life of Jesus, that all God ever asked to have for housing here was a tent. He never intended this to be the end product. He didn't want to live here. Just like for us, we're passing through. All we need is a tent. We don't need to set up permanent residence here. We're going to move on someday to much, much better places. And Jesus said, I don't have any place to lay my head here. He didn't even have the
to
tent.
dwell with men ultimately, for
Yeah.
eternity. That's what's unique about mankind for eternity is that.
But
God
we
chose-
dwell with him in his kingdom, not here. So, and that's, this was always it. Now it's 20 pillars and the 20 sockets of bronze. A short linen fence. Now this fence was not high. Now if you remember how high the one was,
15,
it was 15 feet on the tent of meetings. So it's a tall tent. You can't see over it, which is specific. They did this. This one's only 7.5 feet high around the outside. So guess what you can see from outside? You can see the tent of meetings. It's going to stick twice as high. God's dwelling is twice as high as the fence around it. So again, he didn't make it so they couldn't see into him. It was never totally blockaded, so you couldn't know he was in there or anything. He made sure everybody knew where he dwelled, his presence was there in the middle of the camp. And we'll see later on how the camp was even set up specifically. Okay, and let's move on to the next one. Verses 16. For the gate of the court there shall be a screen 20 cubits long, woven of blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and fine woven linen made by a weaver. And it shall have 4 pillars and 4 sockets. Now this is the gateway on the front. Remember, it stopped short, so there's an opening. Now they're going to have 4 pillars in there and hang curtain across the front, which is the door in and out. Again, all of it is done with the same thing. It's woven with blue, purple, scarlet, fine linen. The only thing that's added in when we get to the priest clothing is gold. It's also woven in. This is the only way to get. Now this is 30 feet wide, the opening. So it's not a narrow opening to get into the courtyard. Why would anybody have to get into the courtyard? What happens there in the courtyard?
your sacrificial animals.
The sacrifice for sins are performed there. The fellowship offerings, the guilt offerings, all those things are taking place there. God gave a wide entrance to get to that. It's not the little narrow door you got to sneak through. It's also big enough to bring your animal in with you. And people don't put it all together. And then also, what's really interesting, and we'll get to this a little bit later on when we talk about the sacrifices themselves. Most people think they brought the animal in, gave it to the priest, and he sacrificed it. No, that's not how it worked. You brought the animal in, you laid your hand on his head, and you killed it.
Yeah.
The priest handled the blood, and then the carcass afterwards, prescribed by law, but you had to slay the animal, because it's your offering, it's your sacrifice, it's for your sin, or your guilt, or as a fellowship offering, whatever.
Well, they could come in as a group, couldn't they? There was massive sacrifice every day, so.
Sure, the
I mean,
sacrifices are going
there
to
wouldn't be
24
one right after
almost.
the other, it would be just tons of people, right?
But you have to have a priest there at each one of those killings, because only the priest can handle the blood. No one else. That's very specific. We'll see some of that when we get to the sacrifices. But the point being is the opening to get into the courtyard was large. Come on in. Offer your sacrifice. The Lord's inviting people in, really. Where it gets narrow is getting into the holy place. Now only priests can go. Nobody can go any further. Verse 17. All the pillars around the court shall have bands of silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of bronze. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and width 50 throughout, and the height 5 cubits, made of fine woven linen, and its sockets of bronze. All the utensils of the tabernacle, for all its services, all its pegs, and all the pegs of the court shall be of bronze. Again, everything touching the ground is bronze. Silver, if you remember, we talked about that, speaks of redemption. As you remember, when Judas betrayed Jesus, he was paid 30 pieces of silver. The theme of silver being the metal of redemption is throughout the scriptures. And so you see everything on this outward court, once you're off the ground, is now all hooked together with silver around the outside. Because when you get into the courtyard, you offer your sin for your redemption is there. What goes on in the Holy of Holies is a whole nother level of things that takes place in there. That's more of the intimate relationship with God, a more intimate thing. And that's all gold in there. Now you've stepped up to another level of metal, even beyond. You cannot go into the Holy of Holies if you've not offered a sacrifice outside. Even the priest can't. Every time he comes into the tabernacle, he has to offer a sacrifice for himself before he can even do his duties. But once that's done, as long as he doesn't leave the courtyard, he can now do his duties into the Holy of Holies and other things and all the neat stuff that goes on. It's so symbolic. Now the pegs, it says the pegs of the court. We haven't heard a lot about pegs yet. They were to hold the tents down so the wind doesn't blow them up and off. You know, now we're getting into plain tents. You know, you got to peg them down so if a good wind comes along, you know, you don't want to see the tabernacle of the Lord, you know, rolling down the desert. So, and when, you know, they're being governed the whole time by, when they know when to move, when the pillar of fire hangs over the over the tabernacle every night, and or you've got this cloud during the day, and when it moves, they had to pick up and move and go with it. You know, who knows if there was wind involved in that? You just don't know. There's more we don't know about it than what we do. It was pretty spectacular, no matter how you look at it. Now, the court of the tabernacle, or ultimately when the temple comes along, becomes a very important theme throughout the Old Testament. This courtyard is not just a afterthought by God. It is very, very important. You see, because when you go into the holy place, the actual temple itself, as it would ultimately be when Solomon builds it, only priests go in there. The courtyard is where you met God. Is where the common person could go in and meet God. So the courtyard is very important. And it really, like I said, when you understand this kind of stuff, the symbolism behind it, when you read some of the Psalms now, it says, enter his gates with thanksgiving in your heart. Enter his courts with praise. Now you know what it's referring to. It's coming into that place where you can offer a sacrifice and be forgiven. Now for us as believers, Jesus did the sacrifice. We dwell in that place. And more than that, we can dwell in the holy place. In fact, we can dwell in the Holy of Holies now in the literal presence of God because of what Christ did. So there's no restrictions for us anymore. But it was very important that they did this right, or else there'd be all kinds of issues. Psalm 65:4 says, blessed is the man you choose and cause to approach you, that he may dwell in your courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of your house, of your holy temple. Psalm 84:2, my soul longs, yes, even faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Psalm 84:10, for a day in your courts is better than 1,000. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. All of these are referring to this picture of the tabernacle, or ultimately temple. Psalm 92:13, those who are planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. Psalm 96:8, give to the Lord the glory due his name, bring an offering and come into his courts. So when you hear that thing courts, what they're talking about all the time is that place of the tabernacle, that outside spot. And I gave you the one on 104, I did that one, enter his gates with thanksgiving, into his courts with praise. Psalm 116:17-19 says, I will offer to you the sacrifice of thanksgiving and will call upon the name of the Lord. I will pay my vows to the Lord, now in the presence of all his people, in the courts of the Lord's house, in the midst of you, O Jerusalem, praise the Lord. So when you start reading the Psalms from now on, when you run across the courts, you know what it's talking about. It's the place where people could gather for their redemption. And that's where God longs to meet with us, is where we are redeemed. That's what he wants to have happen, is that we come in there, the sacrifice has been already offered, now we can just live in the courts of his courts and have a great time. And like I said, we've gone a step further with the new covenant. We can go right into the Holy of Holies and have intimate relationship with the Father himself.
You know, there's one of those chapters you mentioned is my favorite chapter in the Bible, Psalm 84.
Mhm.
And it has a longer description about
Sure.
what it's like there. And one of my favorite phrases there, it says that even the bird can come and build a nest and raise her young at your altar.
Yep.
A place where it's too sacred for us humans to go, but an innocent bird can come build a nest
Mhm.
and reside near the presence of God with complete innocence.
You see, there was never a cover over the courtyard, ever. It's open. There is a covering to the holy place and the most holy place, but not the courtyard. The whole world needs to come to the courtyard. That's what he desired. Everybody come in. And I showed you last week the different size of the temples that ultimately would be built. The one in the millennial, the courtyard is huge. Well, thousands upon thousands of people could get into it.
There's a 3D online at the Ezekiel Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting if anybody wants to look that up. And it says 3D right on the webpage, so it's hard not to miss which one to click into. But they give you this tour around the whole
Yeah.
thing. It's real,
Yeah.
I never saw it, like they have just lines of tables, on the sides, for fellowship in the courtyard.
It's not the Ezekiel 8 or 9 one, is it, where like they're praying to the sun god in there? Okay,
No,
I hate that one.
no, that's a different one. That's in Egypt.
Okay, there's no unclean animals on
Yeah.
there, or
No, this
anything in
is-
the temple?
The Millennial Temple.
Oh,
This was the vision of the temple he had, not the
Okay.
vision of the current temple, what was going on.
that was in there too, that's fine.
It was, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mike, for clarifying that.
Yeah.
bad stuff.
No, no.
I don't want to go look at it.
Now, the whole thing being, this entire tabernacle being a tent is a movable structure. It was never designed to sit in one place. God wanted Israel to know that he was with them wherever they went. They could not go anywhere. All they had to do was take his house with them. And he was there with them. Actually, it was the other way around. When he moved, they followed. But even if it went the other way, he would dwell with them there. Says this wasn't a case of you come to me, but the idea is I've come to you. And I've told you what kind of place to build me. And now when we move, we'll all move. And you can take it with you. I've always wondered that when David really wanted to build a house for him, God says himself, I didn't ask for that. I wondered if God really wanted a house. I kind of think he probably didn't. But he also loved David, loved David's heart. He knew his heart was right about what he was asking for. So he said, you can't, you're a man of war, but I'll let your son go. Yeah. But from this point forward, none of the temples really fit the pattern of the tabernacle. They all embellished after that. Added a little here, added a little there, thinking I'll make God even grander and bigger and better, and he'll love me even more. And, God doesn't want anything but what he asked for. And we got to be careful that sometimes we don't add too many things on to God. There's the setup of the tabernacle. I showed that picture last week, but get it in mind. This is the courtyard here. First thing that happens when you come in is the altar, the burnt offerings. That's where you're offering for your sin. Followed, you have the laver, which is the filled with water. Now, what was that for? Anybody know what the laver was?
Purification.
Of what?
Washing.
What?
Feet
Wash the feet and hands of the priest. Anytime when a priest entered in, he'd have to offer a sacrifice for himself. If he's left there, he's gone back out to the world, so he has to come back in, he has to offer a sacrifice again for himself. Because he's been tainted by the world outside the tabernacle.
Let me ask you this, in that case, you read the Bible about offering a sacrifice of praise.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be wise then when we enter into the Lord's presence in prayer or worship, that praise be a component
Sure.
that would begin?
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to go through the sacrifices, the major sacrifices of Leviticus. There's more than just sin offerings. That's just one.
Yeah.
There are 5 major sacrifices that God said you can do. And 3 of them are voluntary. They're not mandatory. but they were important enough that God gave a huge section on how to do it, and this is the way you do it. If you're going to do it this way. You know, you have all these rules for it. So we'll get into those next week. They had to offer a sacrifice, but then if the priest needed to enter the holy place to tend the candles, the bread, whatever, the incense altar, he had to stop and wash. He had to wash himself, wash his feet, his hands, then he could enter the holy place. If he came out of the holy place and needed to re-enter again for any reason, he had to stop and wash before re-entering. What he did not have to do was ever offer another sacrifice for himself, as long as he remained in the courtyard. Only one sacrifice was required once in. And then washing. And what is so important for us as believers, a symbolic part of that is, what is the word called? We are told to be washed with the washing of the water of the Word. We only need to accept Christ once. We don't keep getting resaved. I did as a kid. People ask, well, when did I come to the Lord? 7, 9, 11, 14. I never knew if I was saved, so every time I got scared enough, I'd accept the Lord again, Someone tell me I had to, so I did, But you only need to accept the Lord once. Then you need the Word to wash you. You need to constantly be in the Word. Let it wash you. Let it wash away the stuff that the world gets on us, and keep doing it. The other thing that this laver would do is it was polished. So when you look into it, guess what you see?
It's your reflection.
You see yourself. It reflects you. Well, if you look into the Word and you study the Word, guess what it does to us?
Mm-hmm.
Shows us who we are in our sinfulness and in our failings, and then shows us who God is, that He redeems us from all of it. And we don't have to live as miserable people, but rather live in the celebration of what He's done for us. And then they would go in, and of course inside the holy place you have the light of the lampstand to the left. That is the only light in there. Of course, Jesus is the light of the world. The candlestick is, speaks of Him. On the right side, you have the table with the showbread. You have 12 loaves on there, one for each tribe. And once a week, the priest would eat it. Well, where do you have bread and wine showing up in Scripture all the time? God desires to have meals with us constantly. He wants us to sit down and eat with Him, dwell with Him. Of course, eating in the culture was a thing of being all together. In fact, we have a verse that we say, behold how good and pleasant it is for men to dwell together in unity. That verse. Well, the literal translation is that all men will sit together. Because if you'll sit down all together, you get along with each other. If you're willing to sit down with one another. It's about just being together. And of course, communion today is still the bread and the wine. And then you have the altar of incense that is constantly burning, which we are told that those are the prayers that are constantly going up into the presence of God. It's to always be burning. And then, of course, in the Ark of the Covenant, in the Holy of Holies, you have the mercy seat, which once a year the high priest would go in and offer a sacrifice for the entire nation. We're going to take a quick look here right now at the next step here, which are that they give us in Scripture, which are the garments that the priest wore.
Can I ask one of
Sure.
them? It seemed like to me Jesus sort of added another point to that when you're talking about the washing.
Mhm.
Because when he went to wash their feet,
Yeah.
Peter asked, he said, yeah, wash my whole body.
Yeah.
He says, you don't need it. When you're talking about being saved once,
Mm-hmm.
all you need is your feet cleaned.
The part that's touching the earth. Again, the part that gets dirty. The part of you that gets dirty needs to be washed. It doesn't need to be everything. And that's, again, to me, it is so wonderful to know that when you get saved by God, you don't have to worry about every little thing all the time. I just got to wash things up here or there. I got to stay, looking for where the dirt is collecting on me. Make sure that I get that washed off again. Let the Word of God cleanse me in that. Of course, the Holy Spirit is the one who reveals all that to us and what's going on in our lives. So, again, you've got that. Jesus, again, anytime you see the water being used, and again, then what do we do as believers? Is show to the world that we are believers. We get baptized. We go into the water. We let a symbolic full washing. You only need that once.
Right.
Then you're done with it. Now it's just keep the feet clean, wash your hands, keep the feet clean, you know? Get the stuff that infects us from the world, you know, off of you.
This correlation of washing seems to me to be connected to confession, because you're acknowledging that you're dirty.
Yes.
And confession is in fact the fact to say you were dirty.
Mhm.
And if I remember the early church, when they would be baptized, they would do, not a particular confession of all the gory details,
Yeah.
but they would confess that they had been sinners.
Mhm.
And it would say, but God, at the time of their baptism.
Sure.
So they did a broad confession that they had led a life of sin up to that point
Mhm.
and were cleansed at one time.
Right.
But then again, they followed the Lord's commands with wash one another's feet, do like I did. It's very much a corollary where it says confess your sins one to another.
Mhm.
When you wash each other's feet, it would probably be an ideal time to practice confession of sins one to another. Because that's how we take the dirt of the world, like you said, off of each other that we pick up that requires that confession. Even though the confession of our prior life has already been dealt with.
Right, right. You know, again, and this was if the church history class that I did, this was a big issue in the early church, especially with those who, through the apostasy, you know, ended up falling away from the church, and then when the persecutions died down, people wanted to come back into the church. The church had to figure out what to do with these people. Are they still saved? They need to be saved again? What do we... And that's where, you know, the Catholic Church often came up with the system of penance and all this. That, yeah, you've been saved for everything you did before, but every sin you do now, you got to do penance for, which is not a biblical concept. It's all covered under the original atonement. You know, we need to be washed. We don't need to pay for the sin. You just need to be washed of it constantly, which is what the Word and one another we do, you know. As the scriptures say, you know, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. You know, we together help one another to we don't go around pointing out the dirt on other people's feet. Don't walk with your head down looking at feet.
Yeah, it says confess your sins, but not
Yeah,
confess
don't
their
confess
sins.
other people's sins. You know, which I think sometimes we've done a little too much of. You know, we're always looking to say, well, my feet are cleaner than his, so I'm good. You know, and don't look at people's feet. Look at your own, or you know, look them in the eye. And you won't have time to worry about that. I remember we had somebody years ago who attended this church who thought they were fruit checkers.
They were what?
Fruit checkers.
Were they? Oh,
They were always checking people's fruit to see if they had fruit in their lives. And
Yeah.
they felt like God had called them to do that. And I'm like, I don't think so. Not until you put away that rotten fruit you have. I don't think you should be taking care of anybody else's fruit. That's God's, not ours. Yeah, we can tell a person who's not living right, and our job is to try to snatch them out of the fire and save them, get them, you know, if we know they're going the wrong way. We're not pointing it out,
Right.
but finding a way to love them back in to the kingdom and make sure that we're always looking for their redemption, not pointing out what they do wrong. All right, let's move on to the garments of the priests, chapter 28. Because these are very specific too. It says, now take Aaron your brother and his sons with him from among the children of Israel, that he may minister to me as priest. Aaron and Aaron's sons, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. And you shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother, for glory and for beauty. So you shall speak to all who are gifted artisans, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister to me as priest. And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, an ephod, a robe, a skillfully woven tunic, a turban, and a sash. So they shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother and his sons, that he may minister to me as priest. Okay. First thing off, take Aaron and his sons. This is the Levitical priesthood. This is the earthly priesthood. Very clear who it is. It's Aaron or a descendant of his. Now, as you get into history, at the time when Jesus is on earth, you know, he doesn't show a lot of respect to the priesthood. You notice when he's on earth. In fact, he's the only people he got mad with while he was on earth were the priesthoods. But you have to understand that they were entirely out of kilts with the law at this point. By this point in time, the office of high priest, which should have who in it? a descendant of Aaron, of a specific clan of Aaron's descendants. And at this point, it was going to the highest bidder.
Oh, wow.
You could buy the office of high priest. And, and there was always somebody that both, Israel kind of would tolerate and Rome would tolerate, and he would be high priest for, how long should a high priest serve?
For life.
Now it was about a year, it was a year term now. By the time Jesus was on earth, every year they would either, if he was doing okay, they might reappoint him. If not, they'd kick him out and get someone else. And it was a political position. Jesus. So when he was giving no respect to the priesthood, it was not the Levitical priesthood he wasn't respecting. It was what they had turned it into, which was nothing he ever intended it to be. The whole point was the priesthood of Israel was not to be earned by effort or inspired by ambition. It was totally the opposite when Jesus got it. That's what they made it. But that was never to be it. It was you were born into the priesthood. Interesting statement. How do we become priests today?
Through Christ.
Through being born into the kingdom. We don't get a choice about being a priest. When you become a believer, you are born into the kingdom and you are now a priest. Like it or not. By lineage, you are now a priest. So it's your job.
Well, if that's the truth, why don't you listen to me?
Because some priests are asked to retire.
I did.
You didn't hear that, did you?
It could only be inherited by birthright. One has to be born into a priestly family. The priesthood was no place for self-glory or ambition to get ahead in life. It was only entered into by God's call and invitation. Now, to make holy garments for Aaron, your brother, for what reason is he to make them? Gives us the reason for it right there. And for glory and for beauty. Now, think about this. The priest, when he was dressed, was to do what? He was to look what?
Holy.
Reflect the glory of God and be beautiful. Well, you're a priest. How should we look to the world? We should be reflecting the glory of God. People should look at us and say, wow, I want to be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Look how nice they look. They got the best clothes around. They get the expensive stuff. They get the, and it's not this earthly stuff we get expensive. It's what we get from the Lord. And we should be the most attractive. Instead, we made a mistake in the church and decided to put all the money into buildings and put gold in buildings and made them grand edifices to the glory of God, we so said. And God said, no, my people are that. My priesthood is what is beautiful and glorious. That's what I want beautiful, not the buildings. They're okay. God doesn't mind buildings one way or the other, I don't think. If you got a building, great. If you don't, that's okay. You can still worship me. When I was in the Soviet Union, right before the end of the Soviet Union, and we went to we were in the Ukraine, and we went up into the Carpathian Mountains, and we did a concert. And it was in this half-built church. They just had the roof over it and the side. There was nothing else, and it was cold that night. Oh. But anyway, they were just building. This is the first church this church had built. Because for 70 years, they'd been meeting in the woods. And we don't need a building. We're building one because we think the kids do, the youth do. They need a place. But the adults are saying, we're fine meeting in the woods. Because the church is not the building. Now, they had to move every week because they were an unregistered church at that time. Now at this point, they weren't anymore. But so you stop and think about that, and wow, all the money we waste on buildings, and they're having church in the woods and loving it. And it's cold there in the winter. And really cold in the winter, and they still met in the woods. Because they wanted to meet and pray together. And learn about God together. And it was funny because that was one of the more humbling nights I've ever spoke anywhere, because I told the Lord, what do I have to say to these people? I mean, when you come from in a middle-class America, I'm speaking to a church that's been meeting in the woods for 70 years and a threat of death from the government. They should be talking to me about God, And I made that statement, and someone just said to me, hey, God's brought you here. One of the Ukrainian pastors just said, God brought you here. You have something for us. Just get up there and share. People came to the Lord that night. So you just don't know. You know, it's not you, it's the Holy Spirit working, it's not us. The glory is not ours. The beauty is not ours, it's reflecting His beauty and who He is. And that's what this clothing was to do for the priest. They were to look at that high priest and say, wow, that's what we should all be like. I wish we could have that.
And today, all refinery that we see within certain churches is reversed. Everything is to glorify that person rather than,
Just point out, look who I am,
yeah.
instead of reflecting.
In contrast, in the book of Hebrews, you see the most beautiful people pointed out lived in caves
Mm-hmm.
and wore animal skins,
Mhm.
and were hounded. It says the world was not worthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, from a heaven's eye view, that's still very, very beautiful people hanging out in caves.
Yeah.
Now, he's told here to speak to all the gifted artisans whom God has filled with the spirit of wisdom. God's already set aside people are going to do the work. They've already been gifted by God to do it. Yeah, and it's a gifting of the Holy Spirit to these craftsmen. God does not ask us to do anything He does not empower us to do through the Holy Spirit. No matter how much you think you're unqualified to do what God is asking, if He asks you to do it, He will empower you to do it. I can guarantee that. I have done things and been places that if it were on my own, there is no way anything, I wouldn't have gone to start with. People have always asked me, because I joke all the time about the snakes in Kenya. And you know what? I am deathly scared of snakes. I am paranoid of snakes. But if God tells me to go to Kenya, I'm going to Kenya. Because I will overcome or I'll get killed by one. One of the two is going to happen. Either way, I end up ahead. So I either have overcome or I end up with the Lord. So it's a win-win situation. You know, I don't like that because someone once came to me and said, I could never go. I couldn't do that. I can be too afraid. Well, if God doesn't call you, I'd be afraid too.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be scared to death too if God didn't call. But if He's called me, I'm more afraid not to do it.
Do Don and Nancy encounter snakes?
All the time. Then I come find black mamas in his bedroom. So people keep asking me, "Are you going to stay there? Are you going to go someday and just stay there?" I go, "No, God Himself comes down and tells me." And I mean, I'm going to have a meeting with Jesus on that one. So I will go visit as many times as He sends me. But
Well, maybe you could talk about the snakes. You can do something about
Or
it.
take a mongoose with you.
There you go.
Yeah, take a mongoose, that's right.
Bunch.
I need a whole pack of them or whatever it is they travel, a pot of mongooses or whatever.
Ticky tab.
45 minutes.
You know, if everything is really being done to the glory of God, practical, manual service, all of it requires the leading of the Holy Spirit. We don't do things in our own strength. None of it, all of it is spiritual service to the Lord. Even if it's coming in and sweeping the floor. You know, for years, you all know Houston Hatchett, he's come in and has cleaned the floors in this building for, I think, 5 years now. He's been doing it. For the last year and a half, they haven't even been coming to the church because his parents have moved in with him. It's real difficult for them to get out. They live down in Antioch, and you know, I've had a lot of conversations with him, and you know, but he comes and does it because this is his service to the Lord. And he comes in here, he's got his headset in, and he's just, you know, he's in a great mood almost every time. It's like this is the time he gets alone with the Lord. And it's such a blessing, and it's sad to say he's resigning at the end of the year finally because it's just too much with his parents and everything else. So we need someone to come and sweep the floor. Great time to be with the Lord, guys. Talk to Maureen if you want to volunteer. So, you know, but he does it as a service to the Lord, and everything we do is that way. And the Holy Spirit meets you.
Some of the most spiritual times that I've had was out there mowing that yard.
Out in the yard. You know, it's not just work.
No.
It's a time with the Lord. And you got nothing else to worry about. I mean, we got 10 acres, so it takes forever. So you can just talk to the Lord the whole time. You know, it's great. Now, also, the other thing that it says in here for that, but it's also that He may minister to me. It says 3 times in the first 4 verses, this command is repeated to the priest. so that he may minister to me. It's to keep reminding the priest what his job is. It's going to be. It's to minister to the Lord. Not ourselves, not even to others. It's to the Lord. Because if you're ministering to the Lord, you end up serving others. Because that's his heart. And it just comes an outgrowth of it. Our first ministry is always to the Lord. Are we serving him? Again, it's not our church. We don't serve our church. We serve the Lord. And if that leads us to serve the church, great. But we're serving him. Always. So all these garments which they shall make here are listed as various parts of the clothing of the priest and the high priest. And we're going to describe each one here now. The first one is the ephod. Not a word we use today a whole lot. Oh, maybe they do in some of these laws. I don't know. Okay, verse 5. They shall take gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread and the fine linen, and they shall make an ephod of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread and fine woven linen, artistically worked. And it shall have 2 shoulder straps joined at the 2 edges, and so it shall be joined together. And the intricate woven band of the ephod, which is on it, shall be of the same workmanship, made of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and fine woven linen. Then you shall take 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names on the one stone, and 6 of their names on the other stone, in order of their birth. With the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravers of a signet, you shall engrave the 2 stones with the names of the sons of Israel. You shall set them in settings of gold, and you shall put the 2 stones on the shoulders of the ephod as memorial stones for the sons of Israel. So Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord on his 2 shoulders as a memorial. You shall also make settings of gold, and you shall make 2 chains of pure gold like braided cords, and fasten the braided chains to the settings. Okay. What did that look like? Anybody got it yet?
Take a look. Don't question, what's an ephod?
You just described it.
Describe anything.
Yeah, you did.
Their shoulder pads.
Part of it.
Big apron,
Hmm?
big apron.
Can be. It's interesting because they can have a couple different forms here, of what it ultimately ends up looking like. Now again, it's to be made out of gold, blue, purple, scarlet thread, finely woven, artistically worked, which means it has to be beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful piece of work. It's not just a piece of clothing. It's going to look really beautiful. It is essentially an ornate apron that they're wearing.
But it's a longer one, right? Doesn't it come all the way
Well,
there?
that's where the scholars are not sure. There's some disagreement. I'm going to show us a couple pictures here of 3 different possible versions of it, or 4 different versions of it, really. It could be any of them. It could be all of them because they were from the style of the time and other cultures. We have some ideas, but they are very different. Now, the linen, which was included on this, was the dress of the noble and the priest in Egypt, which is interesting. You know, that's where they're already thinking in those terms, so their priest would be dressed in linen as well. You know, God has made a connection to what they had in Egypt. But they are chosen, the linen is chosen for what reason? Its coolness in the heat, and its cleanliness. It's cleaner than a lot of other, it doesn't hold dirt as well as other fabrics, easier to clean. Because it's a nice piece of material. Now, the interesting thing that's different here is that it take 2 onyx stones and to inscribe on them the names of all the tribes of Israel, 6 on one, 6 on the other, in order of birth, up and come down. And they are going to be placed on the shoulders at the top of the ephod. And they will be located on him so that he'll bear them before the Lord. Now, this is really interesting. One of the roles of the priest was to bear Israel before the Lord on his shoulders. That it would be a memorial. That when he goes into the presence of God, God will see Israel on his shoulders. All 12 tribes. And the priest's job is to help shoulder the load. It's part of our job. What are we told in the New Testament? Bear one another. We are to help one another. We are to bear up everyone else around us. It's part of our job as priests to hold up the body of Christ, not tear it down. again, we're helping keep it up, keep everything lifted up before the Lord, so that when we go before the Lord, we bring the church with us to the Lord.
It looks like
When
it's
they-
a heavy burden
Yeah,
with all
yeah,
these.
especially this group here, this group of Israel is a real heavy burden.
No
And,
kidding.
Now, would this have been written in the Paleo Hebrew, like more of the hieroglyphic rather than the squared?
Yeah, we're probably getting into a transitional period here, so you might have some of both going on.
I didn't think the square stuff came around until closer to Babylon.
Yeah, I think it was a little before that. But yeah, it wouldn't have been that same alphabet that we have today, exactly.
So if somebody found onyx and it looked like modern Hebrew on it, you'd know.
Yeah,
That's different,
that's
yeah.
probably not it.
Right.
Good chance that's not it. So, you see, the first ministry of a priest is always to God. Our number one job is to minister to Him. But the priest is also connected to his people. See, it can't be just us and God, me and God. See, that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be me and God because we got along just fine. It was everybody else that got in the way of my relationship with God. You know? But it can't be. The priest's job is to be connected to his people. Is to be a part of the people of God. We bear them on our shoulders. The shoulders are always a symbol of the place of work. It's what carries the load is our shoulders. So the priest's ministry unto the Lord, he also worked for and with the people. Right from the beginning, those two go together. What are the two commandments Jesus gave us? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Do that, you got the law. Here it is. The priest's job, go before the Lord to minister, and bear the people.
Well, the priest was like the conduit or the mediator.
At that point, he's the mediator on earth. And but still, all the other priests, their function, is then to work for that priest, the head high priest. Today, Jesus is the one who holds the church up. It's him. He's our high priest. He's the one who does it all. And we're his priests that do his work, which is all the same thing, to minister to the Lord and to hold up the body, keep the body moving forward. Okay, we got fully dressed priests here, so I'll point out what we're doing. This part right here would be the ephod, which goes around the back and up onto the shoulder. Goes up around the back and goes to the shoulder here. It would have two chains that came down the front, and ultimately we're going to talk about the next piece, which is the breastplate. We're connected to the breastplate. This is one style. This here was a short waist style that it came around the back and just went around his waist.
It was the spring collection.
Then we have the front back collection over here that it just kind of went over, the front and back, because the only place it connects is at the shoulders, the front and back piece. And they have a full front piece and a full back piece. See, this one doesn't have a front piece. It comes around the back and then comes around the side. This one goes all the way around the front and all the way down the back. There's no sleeves or anything on the side. It's a sleeveless thing. So that is the ephod. Now here's another version. Here's one that's just in the rear end for whatever reason. I don't know. Now that was a picture of one of the priests, so.
Seems like it would be something more beautiful than that, though, wouldn't you think?
Well, yeah. Well, again, we don't have the craftsmen to make it today,
Yeah, yeah, true.
and these guys were gifted by God to make this thing. Here's another slightly different version of it. Now this part right here is the sash. That's a whole other part. So it's separate. But this part here again hung over the front back because it only hooks together at the shoulders. It's a two-piece. Apparently a two-piece. It goes front and back. I tend to think it's probably the long one, front and back.
Reminds me of a sandwich board. in some
Yeah,
ways.
sandwich board idea. And then the stones are resting where the clasps are at the top that hook together. Those stones are on top of it. Okay, the next one is the breastplate. Verse 15. And you shall make a breastplate of judgment, artistically woven through according to the workmanship of the ephod. You shall make it of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread. A fine woven linen you shall make it. It shall double into a square. A span shall be its length, and a span shall be its width. And you shall put settings of stones in it, 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a sardius, a topaz, and an emerald, and it shall be the first row. The second row shall be a turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond. The third row, a jacinth, agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be set in gold settings. And the stone shall have the names of the sons of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of a signet, each one with his own name. They shall be according to the 12 tribes. You shall make chains for the breastplate at the end, like braided cords of pure gold. And you shall make 2 rings of gold for the breastplate, and you shall put 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. Then you shall put 2 braided chains of gold in the 2 rings which are on the ends of the breastplate, and the other 2 ends of the 2 braided chains you shall fasten to the 2 settings and put them on the shoulder straps of the ephod in the front. You shall make 2 rings of gold, and you shall make them on 2 ends of the breastplate, on the edge of it, which is on the inner side of the ephod. And the 2 other rings of gold you shall make, and shall put them on the 2 shoulder straps, underneath the ephod toward its front, right at the seam above the intricately woven band of the ephod. They shall bind the breastplate by means of its rings up to the ephod, to the rings of the ephod, using a blue cord, so that it is above the intricate woven bands of the ephod, and so that the breastplate does not come loose from the ephod. So Aaron shall bear the names of the son of Israel on the breastplate of judgment over his heart. Then when he goes into the holy place as a memorial before the Lord continually. And you shall put the breastplate of judgment, in the breastplate of judgment, the Urim and Thummim, and they shall be over Aaron's heart when he goes in before the Lord. So Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel over his heart before the Lord continually. Okay. It is interesting. This is a breastplate of judgment, is what it's called. It's not decorative. What do you think that means? The priest is wearing a breastplate of judgment.
The heart. It's hang over the heart.
Well, it's hanging over his heart. That we do know.
Judging the hearts of men.
It's just-
That's a tough one, isn't it? When you stop to think about it, whether we really know exactly what all God intended by it. But one thing we do know is that because it's located over his heart, it's always near the heart of the priest. The people are always near the priest's heart. And it's interesting, it is the priest who bears the judgment. When you stop and think about it. The world's already condemned and judged. And we bear it. Because we pass through that. But it's always should be in our right, hanging in front of our heart. This world is lost. Judgment is coming. And we need to get people to the Lord. It needs to be something we work hard to do. Now, this thing of judgment means a whole lot more here than just eternal judgment and that kind of a thing, because placed within the breastplate is what?
12 stones.
No, that's on it.
Thurman
What's
and-
put into it? It's a doubled over cloth. The first thing they said was that you take it, you make the size, you double it over, then you put on, in gold settings, you put the 12 stones, and you put the hooks and everything else. But that means there's a pouch. It's a pouch, actually.
The Urim and the Thummim.
Okay, the Urim and the Thummim,
Thummim.
whatever that is. Which actually is mentioned 3 times. This breastplate is called the breastplate of judgment, and it holds the Urim and the Thummim, which were tools for discerning God's will. Now, what are they? We don't have the slightest idea, and don't let anybody tell you they know. Scripture doesn't tell us what they are.
They were the
Mike was
tools
just
of,
going to tell us.
they were the tools of what?
Discerning
How
God's
Calvary Chapel
will.
uses them. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Yes,
Jerry and I go in the
pocket.
room and throw dice.
Okay.
Whatever comes up is what we do the next week.
You know, that's a cake ball, that's what I would get.
So
Sounds like my life.
The use of discerning tools of Urim and Thummim are described on a few occasions in Scripture. You have them in Numbers, 1 Samuel, Ezra, and Nehemiah. They were used by Israel. And they may be even implied in a few other passages, like in Judges. Now, the name Urim and Thummim means lights and perfections. And like I said, we are not sure what they are or how they were used. Some of the best guesses is they were a pair of stones. Now, one was light and one was dark. And each stone, one indicated yes, one indicated no from the Lord. And the high priest would ask God a question, reach into the breastplate, and what he pulled out, white stone yes, black stone no.
Isn't that something? If we were to tell somebody to do that now, we would say that was really bad theology.
Well, if that's what they did, we don't know. There's also some who think that the Urim and Thummim was some kind of a stone that sparkled.
Maybe it lit up when God was answering him.
Yeah, and but there were two of them. There's two in there, so it would make sense. There's a yes and a no somehow, and whether he just reaches in and grabs one or the other, we don't know because we don't know what they are. Fortunately, we don't have to use them in the New Testament. We just go and ask God what he wants us to do.
Although they did cast lots to pick the last apostle.
Yeah,
That's where gambling started.
and so.
Well, actually, the Garden of Eden is where gambling was, because it says God took away their paradise.
That's beneath you.
You didn't say that.
Oh,
You
yeah.
actually didn't say that, did you?
Adam preached.
Now, the key to the effectiveness of the Urim and Thummim was that God's word gave them. They were told by God to use this system. This is not a man-made system here. You know, we kind of laugh at it, but it was God who said, make the breastplate, put the Urim and Thummim in there, and that's how you will discern what I'm doing. So this was God's system, so you can't laugh at it. You got to go, it worked, whatever it was. If they use it, it worked. And but you think about it, it was there because of God's word. So once again, for us, we go back to the word. What does God's word say about this issue? What does God's word say how we should act in this situation? What does God's word say? We're doing this, we're going back because we have his written word for us. They didn't have it. Moses was just in the process of getting it up on the mountain, the start of it. We now have it all. So we can sit there and read what God wants us to do. Now that doesn't mean he doesn't sometimes come and give us specific guidance sometimes. He does. That's what the Holy Spirit's job is to do, is to keep us on the path and tell us what we need to do and where we need to go when we need to go somewhere. But if we'll keep that focus on God's word, he'll guide us. He'll guide us wherever we need to know. So there was one old preacher, was asked to explain the Urim and Thummim, and he said, well, this is how I understand it. When I need to know God's will, I get out my Bible and I do a lot of using and thumbing through my Bible, and God always speaks to me.
That's right up there with his.
Down there.
You know what? More Christians would know God's will if they did some more using and thumbing
That's for sure.
than trying to guess what God said to them. You know, we don't need a voice. We have a lot. Now, he speaks with a voice too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against that. Well, anyway, move forward.
But the key on this is that not only on his shoulders, but on his front, when God saw the priest, he saw rather Israel and their sins, which is the same thing for our priest Christ, when he who knew no sin became sin.
Yep.
And saw that our sins that were carried before the Lord. In fact, the Father, again, he felt forsaken on the cross because of that sin that was there. So he was really bearing our nature and all the sin that was in it, just like the priest does.
Bore it in his heart for us. There's I see these are all modern scripts, and you know these aren't the real ones.
No.
Let's go to a little more. Here's the thing that is interesting, because when you hear breastplate, our tendency is to think of military breastplates
Metal.
hard, and that.
Yeah.
This is made out of cloth. It is not. It's not going to stop too many arrows, and and you kind of see it just kind of hangs there, but it was to remain closed. Now, part of it. Let me see. I think the next one here shows it. What they would do is there's the gold chains that went to the ephod, the shoulder part. And they would then use a ribbon, which was attached to the ephod here, to hold it so it stays close to his body. It doesn't go swinging away, because, you don't want to lose the ornament to him. And it's kind of bad if you reach in for a decision and there's nothing there.
Where did they get all this material from?
When they left Egypt, they took plunder. They were told to take the plunder of everybody, and the Egyptians willingly gave them things when they left.
Yeah.
So they left Egypt with tons of gold and stones and all this stuff. And then when they got out into the desert, and Moses called for people to bring in the supply, bring in offerings from the nation. They brought so much that he had to finally tell them to stop, because they had more than enough for everything God had told them to do. He said, stop bringing stuff. That's how rich Israel became. That's how much they plundered Egypt when they left, which God promised them. They would not only leave, but they would also take the riches of Egypt with them.
Mhm.
And they did. And so, here's another version of
So
it.
God shall supply all your needs.
God supplies it all. There's there's a version of it, of the Urim and Thummim. I'm reading modern scripts, so I don't think
They're not real, right?
they're the real ones. People just try to come up with a
Right,
one
they're
that's
not
where
real
it might have been.
That's on the priest tweed cloth there.
That is tweed. These are Scottish. These are Scottish
Pounds
ones. So the idea being they would have been identical in size and shape, so the priest reaching in couldn't know which one was
Oh,
right.
that makes sense.
That's the point here, is that they're identical. Whatever they were probably
Was it
identical.
rainbow?
Or one was sparkly and one was not. It was that.
Yeah, you're
Who
right.
knows? So, but anyway, we're out of time for tonight. We'll finish off the clothing
Boy,
next
that
week.
went fast.
I'm sorry.
More fashion show next week.
We'll have more of the fashion show next week.